to it. Do not do it. Do not do it. I'm stopping you before you even do it this time, Gerald.
I can't help it. I got to do it. And we're back with the show. This is the Pop Culture.
Oh, no! I thought I had to stop this time.
How's everybody out there? Whether it's the PCC Multiverse or Pop Culture Cosmos, we just truly appreciate you listening to the program. Once again, it's Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. We truly appreciate it. And I'm here along with my good friend, the man, the myth, the legend, behind Rob McCallum Films, and also the project director for Tiny Rails on Tiny Titan Studios. Get Tiny Rails right now, available on early access on Steam for $9.99. It's Rob McCallum. How you doing, my friend?
Good. Thanks for the plug on Tiny Rails. You can also check it out on mobile too, which has some interesting stuff coming up. And that it's a free-to-play game both on Android and Apple devices. So if you're an iOS fan or Google Play fan, load it up for free. Check it out. If you don't like premium currency in-game purchases, check it out on Steam for $10 now. It'll go up later.
There you go. I mean, it is a great deal, and it is truly a fun game on whatever platform you play it on. I just truly recommend it highly to everyone out there, indeed. So we're going to talk a lot about a lot of great subjects. In fact, we're going to field some things as far as later on, as far as some films that we're looking forward to during the fall movie season. But I'm going to give Rob the floor. Rob we're just going to switch back to the old days when Rob was hosting all those great podcasts like Gamercast with J. Rob and Glenn, and also The Trenches and all those other great shows. And we're just going to switch, do the switch around and have Rob lead us into the segment, because he wanted to do a news roundup with me. And I said, sure, let's go for it. I think that's a great idea, and we'll go ahead and delve into a lot of news items. So, Rob?
Can you make that sound again of the cosmic table shifting around?
Well, we're in the cosmos.
Well, you're going to have to turn it around again, because that was the second time, so that puts you back at the helm. So you got to do one
more time. Back to you. All right.
Okay, there we go.
So we've got Rob leading us in. So take it away, Rob. What have you got for us today?
Well, I've been scouring the interweb for a while, and I thought it'd be good to kind of, like you said, do a little news roundup across the board. Just take the headlines and extrapolate to some of the bigger questions that may be buried within the headlines, within even the bylines and deeper stories. The first one that jumped out at me was Close Encounters of the Third Kind has recently undergone a 4K restoration, and it's back in theater for Labor Day weekend. Now, that's also going to be followed by a 4K disc and Blu-ray set, which includes a theatrical version, the 1980s special edition, and the 1997 director's cut. Now, the director's cut actually doesn't have scenes that were included in the 1980s version, but were not in the theatrical version. So it's like this quasi-blend, and Spielberg, the director, obviously said, oh, those inside the mothership scenes were a mistake in 1980, so we're just going to take him out of 97.
Blade Runner all over again, correct?
It feels like we're not quite sure when we want this film to finish. We'll just keep tinkering. So, first question to you, sir. How important do you think these restorations are, and are they worthy of a theatrical release?
Well, first off, it is appearing in over 900 theaters this Labor Day weekend, so it definitely is something that's very, very important still as far as in the realm of pop culture. The Close Encounters of the Third Kind as a film, I think it still resonates well with audiences, and I think a restoration of that picture I think is definitely warranted, because it does have a lot of great imagery, which I think is definitely needed a nice little beautification process to be able to be translated well across 4K televisions.
Yeah, but there are a lot of great films throughout history that don't have 4K restoration, that didn't get a theatrical release. What makes Close Encounters of the Third Kind, in your opinion, worthy of not only one of those treatments, but both?
Well, I think it's obviously, like I said, from a storytelling standpoint and a sci-fi standpoint for a lot of individuals that are truly invested in pop culture like I am. It's not one of my favorites, but I still have a healthy respect for it as far as...
But that's exactly what I mean, right? Like, it's not even probably like on that tier A of Spielberg movies. It's probably like that B level. It's good, but it's not quite,
It's up there, but it's
Schindler's List. It's not a Jurassic Park. It works for what it is, but it's a slow burn. Sure, it is about aliens, which is kind of pop culture
Well, for me, it's
related.
not even a Minority Report, so which is one of my favorite Steven Spielberg
Really, that is
films.
surprising to hear.
So I think that it obviously has played well into audiences, and like you said, this is it's going across 900 theaters this weekend. But like you said, the bigger thing is that it's coming out on Blu-ray, and I think it's all meant to hype that up because of the fact that it has been a movie that's been out of touch with audiences for a little bit,
That's
and
a
they're just
40
trying to
years
do what they
too,
can to
right?
hype up. It's a glorified commercial for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, and it's the 40th anniversary of the film. So I mean that's the obvious tie-in to release it back into the theaters. 1977 is when it was released, and 40 years later, here we are, 4K restoration. What do you make of these multiple versions of the same film with something like this? You mentioned and alluded to Blade Runner. Of course, Star Wars is the other kind of target.
Well, it just becomes very confusing for those that are not diehard fans of the film. Like, for instance, with me, I am a very strong, devout follower of the Blade Runner film, so I can tell and differentiate the different versions of the Blade Runner films. I have seen not many, but not all of the different versions of the Blade Runner films, but I know that there are certain aspects of these different cuts that I like, and I've never seen one that totally makes me happy all the way around. So I can, with Close Encounters, I know that's probably going to be the same thing. Unless you're really a diehard fan, it's not going to really make much difference to you. If you have not seen it before in theaters, and if you've not, but you've always wanted to, or you wanted to know more about it, I guess this is a great opportunity to check it out, in a nice imagery on a wide screen and all that. But if for the most part, I don't think it's going to do great numbers, because in the month of August, nothing has really done great numbers over the box office so
Yeah,
far.
traditionally August and January are the 2 months that films get dumped in order to see what happens, and sometimes
Although that's changing, because January is becoming a better month for a lot of different movies.
yeah, usually you get the breakout horror films that start leaking through January, and they kind of crop up there. And every now and then you get the counter programming where something a little bit bigger marks and makes a dent in the box office. Where do you stand on other films that get a second version out there, like E.T., another Spielberg film where the guns in the cops' hands were replaced by walkie-talkies infamously?
Well, E.T., I'm not a fan of. I can tell you that right now. And I'm sorry for
Really?
anybody out there.
Really?
I'm
What
not a fan.
surprises me is that you like Minority Report over E.T.
I love Minority Report
What do
over
you love about
E.T.
Minority Report? We have to get to the bottom of this.
With
First,
Minority
first, let me
Report,
say I'm a Philip K. Dick fan, so I get the source material, and I like
yes.
the inspiration. But what do you really like about Minority Report?
I just like, as far as the atmosphere, as far as the dystopian future, as far as the way the precogs, that whole dynamic worked, as far as pre-crime is concerned, and how it was corrupted and basically warped into the point where its initial initiative failed, later in the series, later in the movie, excuse me. So I really just enjoy that concept, and plus also as well when that was one of the best performances from Cruise himself, and as far as the whole cast, including Max von Sydow, just basically just turned in just a great performance. And Colin Farrell was also a plus as far as his character is concerned. I just basically everything hit on all parameters. E.T. goes off of cuteness for a while, and I think it was nice for what it was back in the 80s, but it just, I don't think it resonates. There's a reason why it just doesn't get played out very much over the course. You don't see it on TV. You don't
It's
see
because
it.
the rights cost a fortune for that film.
Yeah, so, but it just does not. I don't know. It just does not play well, I think, into a modern audience as much as I think.
Well, because you see, I disagree, and maybe that's the filmmaker in me. Because E.T. is what put Spielberg on the map, and then he did stuff like, was it 1941? That was a huge bomb,
Yeah, in the
and then
'70s, and then he did
you did Raiders right
Yeah.
after. You did, and
And I just saw that again the other day, and that still holds up very well.
that's an A-level film by Spielberg right there, 100%. Raiders Lost Ark, 100%. Well, we can agree to disagree. Where do you stand on Demolition Man for dystopian futures?
Demolition Man, you didn't really pay attention too much to the dystopian future. Actually, if you're looking for anything on the dystopian future, Starship Troopers, I really kind of like that concept as far as with all the, you take the rhetoric and obviously the bugs aside. And I love that concept that they had as far as the whole parameter with being part of the Federation. But going back to what you were talking about, I think Demolition Man, it was more about Sylvester Stallone and Wesley Snipes, making side cracks along with everybody else that was a part of it, and Sandra Bullock also as well in it. So I don't know.
I like Demolition Man better than Minority Report. I'm just saying it on the record.
I disagree. I think it's good, but I think it just exemplifies that type of film where it's bam, bam, boom, boom, wisecrack, wisecrack, and that was those late '80s, early '90s type films that seem to resonate well with audiences in that time. Low on story, higher on action, and wisecracking. So,
well, we'll end on the positive note that we both like Starship Troopers. I know your answer to this next question. Would you like to know more? Of course you would. Moving on to the next point.
But I will say this. If people get a chance to see these older films, like one of the great things that is out there, and I'm not sure everybody knows about it, is Fathom Events. And if you go to Fathom Events on Facebook, you get to see opportunities where they don't have restored, prints or whatnot. They just show these classic films from the past, including Star Trek: The Wrath of Khan is coming up here in a couple weeks. Yes, and they're going to show that in theaters again. But they're showing all these classic films. I saw North by Northwest on the big screen for the first time ever, earlier this year through Fathom Events. So if you check out Fathom Events, I think they do things right as far as playing in select theaters, select screens, selected movies over the course of the year. And it doesn't always have to be the most popular, but really just movies that hit from every generation, every era, even going up to the 90s and those type of movies as well. So
nice. All right, well, moving on to the next topic I got here. Brendan Thwaites has been cast as Dick Grayson in the new DC digital service from Smallville, digital service title from Smallville, Flash, Supergirl, and showrunner Greg Berlanti. And of course, we're talking about Titans. I don't know if you're familiar with this concept in the show, what's going on, but we finally have Dick Grayson cast. And here's the synopsis of the show from Hollywood Reporter. If you're not familiar, Titans is a live-action drama series that follows a group of young, soon-to-be superheroes recruited from every corner of the DC universe. The story revolves around Dick Grayson, who emerges from the shadows to become the leader of the fearless band of new heroes, including Starfire, Raven, and more. Jeff Johns, who's the head of DC, who's penned a lot of books for them, and is now kind of in charge, says, Dick Grayson was one of the most important and iconic heroes in the DC universe, and it isn't easy to find him, but we have. Brenton has the emotional depth, heart, danger, and physical presence of Batman's former protege and the Titans' future leader. We're extremely lucky he's chosen to bring his talents to this project and this character. So, first of all, what are your thoughts on Titans as a series?
Well, if it stays away from the CW, because I think it's going to go on TNT, is that correct?
I believe that's what I heard as well.
That is a step in the right direction because
I think it's TNT, but there's a direct that's the DC.
It's a tie-in too.
Direct. Yeah.
But still, I think TNT seems to take a lot better care of its series. CW has a tendency, it just mashes everything together with the DC and whatnot, and it's convoluted things it's hard. I mean, I talked to Josh about it on our show on a number of occasions where he is tried to keep up with that whole DC conglomeration on the CW, and it's very hard to keep up because
it's gone too far. It's gone too far.
So that's why I'm saying it's a breath of fresh air that it's going on to another network. And even if it associates itself with, the Flash and Arrow and all that, that's fine. I have no problem with it. But if it stays on TNT, you and I both have seen the care and the backing TNT gives its programs, from Animal Kingdom, The Last Ship, so many others that they've had on there. They at least give it a chance to be out in the forefront instead of just another DC show on the CW network.
Yeah, I could juggle CW when it was Arrow by season 2 or 3, and then Flash came in. It was just the two. And even there was 2 crossover episodes. And then Supergirl kind of got in the mix, even though it was still the CBS originally for season 1. And then Legends of Tomorrow started, which was all tied in, and now there's 4 shows going on.
Well, Supergirl, I can't blame too much because, obviously what happened with CBS, and they still thought a property that had an audience. Okay, you got to do what you can there, but Legends of Tomorrow,
but still, like, there's 4 shows that are now like intermixing, and it's the problem that comic books, the actual books themselves, had, where you had to read issues 55 through 58 of Amazing Spider-Man. Then you had to go read Spectacular Spider-Man 14 through 20. And then you had to go back to Peter Parker is Spider-Man, issues 32 through 31 to get the whole storyline. Way too much jumping around.
And Secret Empire, which just concluded, which Josh and I talked about on a previous episode last week, we talked about that closing out and that having too many issues going on at the same time, too convoluted. There were several storylines that were unnecessary. Least among that is obviously Captain America going bad, but there were other storylines and other directions the story took that in different editions that were really unnecessary. And I think that, like you said, it becomes really convoluted to a point where it's hard for fans to follow. That's why I like it on TNT, because the fact that it separates, it distances itself from its brethren on the CW, but can still have and intermix those characters every now and then, but we don't feel like we are obligated to watch the CW in order to do so.
Here's the chief question I got to ask you, my friend. Are you ready for it?
I'll do my best.
How many almost Batman shows do we need to get? And can any really work? You know what I'm talking about here.
That's a great question. It starts with Gotham and goes all
Birds of Prey, too.
Yeah, exactly.
Which tried to launch in the 2nd season of Smallville.
Yeah, and
these are
so
all
much more
Batman-ish shows that say, oh, Batman is kind of tethered to this, and that's why you should care, but never seeing Batman.
I think it brings it down. I think it brings it down as a whole, and it makes it harder for Batman, a true Batman series or a Batman film, to work, because all this attention is paid to the Batman mythos, if for lack of a better term, and I just think that it allows people get burnt on it, and we talk about superhero fatigue so much on our episodes, and we talk that just helps make it even more possible, because you're just adding all this environment, and people say, oh yeah, it's great to tell these stories about Gotham and the whole entire Batman universe and whatnot. That's fine if you had one show telling it, but when you have 2, 3, 4, you have movies devoted to it as well that are telling things outside of the direct Batman realm, it just, people don't want to know that much about the whole Batman universe after a while, and people will stop watching, and people will stop wanting to care about the Batman himself as a whole.
Well, I know Warner Brothers, from a creative standpoint, is always keeping Batman away from the small screen TV, because they want to constantly put him on the silver screen as a draw. So that's why that line will almost always be there. But what I believe TNT and DC should have done is not make this a Teen Titans kind of drama. They should have just kept it about Dick Grayson as Nightwing. That's what they should have done. Have Nightwing's story in Bloodhaven, where he basically tries to take up the helm and protect that city, with his past coming back to haunt him. And you know what? Don't have Batman in there, but have appearances by Bruce Wayne. So you just kind of allude to the character.
Series by itself could have been very effective. I
agree.
And
there's a lot of great stuff happening with Nightwing, where he's actually, been enlisted by the government as a secret agent, and there's some really cool kind of James Bond spy stuff with him. He's a great character on his own. We've seen from Marvel, who is obsessed with team-based movies, whether it's X-Men or Avengers or Guardians of the Galaxy or Fantastic Four or Defenders or the Inhumans. All the Marvel franchises are based in groups, and more often than not, having more people with powers isn't a good thing. You can focus on singular characters that have enough going on and showcase them and what they're dealing with.
I'm beginning to agree with you, because Defenders on Netflix was not exactly up to par. I thought that was a very disappointing way to have them come together. Josh, I think, pretty much agreed with that assessment as well. And the Inhumans I know it's coming out as far as to theaters this weekend, as far as in selected IMAX and whatnot, and obviously later this month to ABC. But I don't think that is going over as well with the fan base as well. I know Josh and I had also talked about as far as the lack of quality special effects and Medusa's hair and all that. So Inhumans itself is not getting off to a great start as well. And I think you're right as far as in your assessment of always having to have these groups. I mean, how did this resurrection of superheroes in this century start? It started with Batman and it continued with Iron Man, which are singular focused on a superhero and a villain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think everybody's wondering how DC can right the ship. Don't worry about trying to do everything in the DC universe just because that's what Marvel did. If you want to focus on Batman, there's enough there because you can still do your Joker stuff. And we'll come back to that later in the news roundup. And you can still do your Batman stuff. You can still do your Dick Grayson stuff. You can still do your Batgirl stuff. You can still do your Huntress stuff. There's a lot going on with any of these characters' kind of purviews in that one city that may or may not connect them all. That's all I'm saying about that. You know what I mean? You with me on that one? Are you with me? Can you feel it?
I can feel you, man. I feel you, brother. I feel you, brother. There you go.
Okay, here we
go. I feel you.
Don't reach out and touch me across the cosmic table.
Okay, there you go. But it's still a point where where you have the Warner Brothers feeling like they have to tell all these different stories. They get a group together and they feel that by doing so, they acclimate the general audience to all these individuals so that now you can branch them all off into all those many seemingly hundreds of different stories that DC wants to tell.
Yeah, I agree. 100% I agree. The only bright spot I will say for Marvel stuff that they've done right so far is Legion, the TV series, exec produced by Bryan Singer. I believe it's on FX.
That's off the beaten path because people don't always recognize it as a Marvel-based television show. I mean, people can watch that and not realize it's part of the X-Men group, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. It does make sense. I mean, I look at other characters and stuff out there that are the same way, like Constantine, right? That doesn't necessarily read as a Marvel property, or something like Red, which was obviously based on a comic book as well as a graphic novel. So
I think Constantine's DC.
Yeah, Constantine's DC, but what I'm saying is you can watch it without realizing it's connected to superheroes.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Although Josh and I went back and forth about our, liking the film. I kind of liked the film. I thought to me.
I was talking more the series.
The series itself, I thought was okay, but I just don't think NBC gave it the proper love that it needed.
Wasn't it coming back on CW, like every DC show?
I thought it was considered, but I don't think it ultimately does.
You know what?
I think it will be part, again, Constantine will be part of, guess what? Your favorite thing, a dark universe.
Yeah, well, I remember hearing something about that as well. And it was announced in 2017 that he'd voice. So there's an animated web series that's coming on the CW. That's where it's coming back with the cast that was on the NBC show.
There you go.
There you have it. All back to the CW, whether it's on cable or on the web. A little bit of Star Wars news here.
They might as well just forget the name CW and just name it DC.
DCW. There you go. We're recording on Force Friday 2 right now, of course. Force Friday, tons of Star Wars stuff that's going on right now. One piece that caught my eye was this new, over 7,500 piece Lego Millennium Falcon set, which is available November 1st. When it's built, it is 33 inches long, 22 inches wide, 8 inches tall, and it comes with Han, Chewie, Leia, and 3PO. And it retails for a cheap $7.99. $800.
Believe me, it caught the eye of my daughter as well. Let's just say that.
I bet it did. And how many Christmases does she get to have those pieces doled out to her?
It'll be doled out over the course of 10 Christmases. So I bet pretty much $80 per shot. There you go.
Now this is definitely a cool piece, right? Like, you've seen it. It's awesome.
I've seen the $150 piece, and I thought that was awesome. I've been to several stores across the country, Lego stores, and and just imagining I've seen the pictures already, and it looks really, really.
I mean, we're talking 3 feet wide and 2 feet long here, practically.
Exactly, just the type of thing that can end a marriage.
Well, this is the kind of thing you need to acquire before anybody gets married. That's all I'll say. Anybody's engaged, you get this now. Or if you're thinking about popping the question, you buy it before you do. So
There
that
you go.
once he or she says yes, we've taken inventory. You must accept everything going forward.
Plus, you do what you can to try and make sure it's sealed so it won't be broken.
Or you put it together, and it's like, well, the work's already done. Don't take that away from me. This is definitely cool, but here's the problem, Gerald. Here's the bigger problem. This is where we read between the headlines a little bit. All right. Star Wars, way back in the 70s, introduced the whole collect them all philosophy. Collect all 8, collect all 20, collect all 50. And at one point in the 70s, that was really possible to do, because I think they topped out at something that was pretty manageable, even by 1970s dollars. A kid or a zestful fan could get them all.
Even when you looked on the back of the Kenner products, you see one of whatever, and it seemed attainable. And you saw the series of exactly, you could easily see the sets and what you needed to collect and whatnot. It was very attainable.
What you were missing, and how much you wanted those other figures, and you'd circle the back of those boxes, those cardboard, boxes on the figures. And in the 90s, when the Power of the Force line rolled out, just ahead of the prequel trilogy, it became a little bit improbable because so much figures came out and it was hard to attain everything. And of course, there's 20 years of figures in between at that point as well, but still possible, still, within a number for collectors out there, that it wasn't discouraging them. You get the original set, you got the new Power of the Force line. But now, with online retailers, Gerald, store exclusives like Target, Walmart, and, Toys R Us, theme park special events that have figures, I think it's officially impossible to collect them all. Is this good or bad?
Well, first off, it's not theoretically impossible, because I've known collectors over years that
it's impossible to collect every single Star Wars.
With also con exclusive or not. It is not theoretically impossible, but you need a heck of a lot of money for it.
No, it's not even money. It's time and a bunch of luck. And you know what? Some of this stuff is gone and destroyed because of how long it's been. There's finite numbers on some of these pieces.
Well, I'm just trying to give you that theoretically it's not.
Yeah, I know. And if I was doing a documentary on collecting this, I got to tell you, the stakes would not look good.
Your budget would be astronomical.
Yeah, well, I would be doing the filming at least, which might be affordable. But the point is, the big question, for a series that coined the phrase collect them all and made it tangibly possible to do it, in the era that we live in, they've gone back on what they're asking you to do, I think, because it's almost impossible to collect all Star Wars things.
Yeah, but you got to remember, there's other people in place now, and there's other entities in place, and starting with, the big D, Disney.
The big D!
I mean, Kathleen Kennedy is now in charge of it, but this goes back before that with George Lucas, like you said, in the prequels, that started those type of decisions that were made back in the 90s and started evolving into more pieces, exclusive pieces, harder to get pieces, from there. I mean, those decisions were made a long time ago. And obviously George Lucas has never been one to shy away from commercializing his products. That's his prerogative. It's his creation. By all means, obviously it worked out in the end for him, because Disney cut him a nice paycheck and all that. But unfortunately, those people have forgotten about that. A lot of individuals, and most importantly, the individuals involved in running the Star Wars franchise have forgotten that motto and turned their back on it. And do I think it's right? No, I don't think it's right, but it is the reality that is 2017 and the modern era, where commercialism, capitalism will reign supreme overall.
There's something souring about being a fan, and yet I'm held back by enjoying as much fandom as I want, because no matter how much my heart wants to be surrounded by this stuff, I'll never be able to do it.
That's why you have to be very selective. You have to be very
reverses fandom. No, I get the idea of sub-collecting. Believe me, I get it. There's a guy who loves Jim Henson, a guy who loves DuckTales and movie posters and He-Man and and all the wonderful things. I get the idea of breaking it down to maybe only collecting the best Luke Skywalker figures or the best Han Solo stuff, or just sticking to the original 70s line, or just this era. I get sub collecting. And I think that's like a temporary band-aid on the bigger problem, because even then, even if you're just going to collect all the cool Luke Skywalker stuff, you're in trouble.
It is. It just comes to a point where there's just, like you said, there is too much stuff that's out there. Okay, I said it is a finite number of somebody actually be able to collect all this stuff, but it is almost virtually impossible to collect all this, and it almost takes the fun out of collecting because you don't know what to collect. But then again, if you're just doing it because you like a certain segment of the Star Wars franchise, or any franchise for that matter, I guess it's okay, because you can find your own center of the universe where you think it is valuable and it's valuable to you. As long as you take great pleasure in that, then by all means. I mean, you see me with Battlefront right there behind me, staring at us right there off the wall. I'm going to be getting Battlefront 2. That's what I collect, is really good Star Wars games. Now, have I collected all of them at one point in time? No, I have not. But there's been several choices that I've made, either whether it's creatively or budgetary reasons that I've had to make choices on. So I understand anybody out there that doesn't like the fact that we now live in a world where there's almost a seemingly infinite number of Star Wars artifacts that are available that nobody can realistically get a hold of. But then again, like I said, it is just the nature of the beast that is now 2017 and the modern era of pop culture.
I'm going to ask you an impossible question to answer, because that's my specialty, or speciality, depending on where you're from. How much is too much when you're looking at collecting something? If you were to come up with a number that represents pieces in a collection for anything, whether it's a movie-inspired action figure line or trading cards or whatever, what number is big enough to make the collection process fun, but not too daunting that it doesn't feel overwhelming, irregardless of price?
I would probably say 50. 50 or 100 would probably
50.
Be 50. 50, it seems to be like a good number that you have, as far as a collection is concerned, that you could feel it's a full collection.
Wow.
Yet it's somewhat attainable. Well, I guess I'm wrong in that assessment.
No,
then.
not at all. I just think it is so vastly different from the number I was going to suggest.
Well, then what, pray tell, did you have in mind, kind sir?
I was going to say 1,000.
Really?
1,000 pieces total of whatever X is produced. Now, if we're going to say like action figures, that would include all the action figures, all the vehicles, the play sets, the repaints. 1,000 figures feels like that is like as far as I want to go. Now, if we're talking something comfortable, 500.
Okay, well then there you go. That would be, and that's beyond. But to me, that feels like it's beyond a set. To me, it kind of lessens the value when you go that high of number.
Well, I just think of this wonderful film that I know something about called Nintendo Quest, where a friend of mine had to collect 678.
Oh, it's like, he's dragging that movie in.
And I just put that in perspective. In 30 days, okay, no internet purchases. How many can you get per day if you're looking? So that's why I kind of think like 500 is kind of good. 1,000 is about the limit. And, Nintendo Quest kind of falls kind of right in the middle between those two numbers.
Well, as someone who did review your movie and reviewed it quite favorably and is still available on popculturecosmos.wordpress.com.
And you can get the movie on robmccallumfilms.com.
Well, you put in your movie, I put in my movie review. But anyways, I will say that for your movie, that number was effective because it was very difficult to attain, either whether it was done or not. I'm not going to say, because if you haven't seen it, shame on you, you should see it. But I will say it was a difficult number to attain, but it was a number that could be attainable within the parameters that you set.
Maybe. Some people disagree. We heard that from the outset. We'll see. I don't know. Go watch it if you haven't seen Nintendo Quest. Again, robmccallumfilms.com, or Google Nintendo Quest. You'll find links to check it out on Amazon. If you have Amazon Prime, you can check it out. It's also on Crackle. Lots of options out there. What again? Even in Nintendo Quest, we did sub collecting with the top 20, right? So we could focus on those 20 meaningful titles. So we both win, I think, on that one. All right, a couple more
Well,
pieces
if I
here.
will say this, I will say this. I won't say whether he did it or not because there's a good chance either way that happened. But would it have helped? Can we say about Jay's reluctance to fly?
What do you mean? Can we say about it?
Can we talk about it? Because I can edit this part out. But can we talk?
No, we can talk about anything. You don't have to edit anything.
Okay, so if Jay had had the ability to, because he was really reluctant to fly.
Yes, Jay does not fly.
Had he had access to plane tickets, that would have made his trek. Would that have been legal? Would that have been part of the okay parameters?
Yeah, I mean, there was no restrictions on how to travel. I think flying wouldn't necessarily made it easier because it would have came out of his budget too, right?
Well,
and time and stuff like that. And the idea with being in the car is that you can hit stores on the way and you can basically make a big string of them.
But then he could have flown with a collective effort and maybe some careful planning. Could have also hit up maybe a better string of metropolitan stores that might have been able to give him a large cachet.
This is the fun part about thinking about Nintendo Quest. How you would have done it is different than how I would have done it. Is different than how whoever's listening would have tackled the 30-day challenge of trying to get every single Nintendo game without any online purchases.
But it did make his trek a little bit more difficult to me because I thought a lot of time was lost in the road. But did it impede with his ultimate goal and the fact that whether he completed the quest or not? I don't know, because he actually at several different points during the film he did extremely well with his collecting. So he was looking really good for time, and in fact did quite well, I will say, overall. As far as in the movie, and that's kudos to him and also you as far as following that movie along. So I'm going to give you like the 5,000th kudo that I've given you over the film.
You know what? I have a closet right next to me over here, and they'll all fit in there nice and neatly, organized and on display. Bring the kudos along. More
Fair
Star
enough.
Wars news here. What someone lovingly said will end society is nice knowing you is Star Wars Jedi Challenge, which is a project by Lenovo and Disney for an AR, augmented reality, headset game that uses your cell phone. Have you seen this, Gerald? As you frantically Google search it?
Actually, only saw a bit of it the other day because I did post a story on it. So yes, I did see it briefly, but I wanted to make sure as far as when you're talking about the AR augmented reality, you want to make sure you get it right and don't call it, first of all, don't phrase it in a virtual reality mode because those are two opposite ends of the spectrum. Correct. When it comes to a different type of reality. But when it comes to augmented reality, you're basically creating something, an image that's basically one of the great things to Vita created at originally one of the quirks of the Vita that was really kind of cool was creating those AR images right off of household objects and whatnot that would pop out. I know at one time Microsoft actually invested in that type of technology and was looking forward to trying to create a full AR experience as well. So I understand that's the future. As you and I both have seen with VR, that was so the rage of last year. It's still around, but it didn't really quite hit, I think, on all numbers that I think a lot of people in the industry wanted to see. I know PlayStation VR has done kind of good, but not really.
As you grimace, yet rejoice that
okay, what does 1 million sets mean? Because they've sold roughly 1 million sets. That's basically the numbers that they've translated.
Well, how many PS4s have they sold?
In that time, they've sold 65. So it's relatively speaking, it's kind of hard. And PSVR is the biggest selling of them all. So
I think it's that ratio that you really have to concern yourself with, 1 to 65.
So it just tells you right there that an AR experience, it's cool, but I don't think the general audience really just wants to get too invested into it unless there's really something that they can really latch onto. This could be the trick as far as attaching a Star Wars experience to an AR experience, and that could gain a lot of interest.
Well, let's take one step back. Again, augmented reality is essentially an overlay over our world. The best example and most readily available known example to that is Pokemon Go. You use your camera's phone and you point it around and you discover Pokemon that you try to catch that are sitting on your sofa or out in the road or in a park. So you're augmenting our existing reality, AR. Now, Star Wars Jedi Challenge gives you a headset to put on, so you're not just looking through your camera's phone, but you will see a projection of Darth Vader or Kylo Ren coming at you. And you also have a actually incredibly detailed lightsaber controller that you use in your hands.
But it will
You
be within
have
the surrounding room that you're in, and you will see pretty much everything with contained within.
Yeah, you basically see like a holographic version of these foes coming at you wielding lightsabers, and you duel them with your lightsaber controller too. So from the videos I've seen, it looks pretty cool. I didn't realize the price point was $200. Might be a bit steep, but given the Star Wars license, maybe they can justify that.
But then that's the problem. That's the reason why virtual reality has had such issues. When the best version of it to most audiences is $399, and I know it recently just got a price reduction as well. But still, the best versions of it overall are the HTC Vive and the Oculus Rift, which for a time were several $100s more expensive. It just the people have not, the general public has at large has not latched onto it, and seeing how that's going to be at a similar price point, as far as you're paying for a technology that's newer, so you're going to have to pay more for it. It is really going to cater to a niche audience until there is that breakout between an affordable price and an attractive license to work with.
I do think other than Pokemon Go, Star Wars is like one of the key brands to try AR with to see success. So I think time will tell, and maybe this will be a kind of cool Christmas gift that some people get, especially as The Last Jedi
If it
comes out
drops to
around that time.
$100, then you're talking about something.
I think you might even have some winners at 175 or 150 though. I don't know that 199 is the final. I mean, we'll see what happens on Black Friday too, of course, right? And you can tune
That's
in
that.
to the Pop Culture Cosmos Black Friday edition, I'm sure.
Oh, that's true. I'm definitely looking forward to that. You know me and Black Friday. That's one of my favorite
You are
holidays.
you're a pirate when it comes to Black Friday. Like that is your holiday. You do more research and get more kind of stocked up than anybody. I don't even go to the other sites anymore when it comes to wondering what's going on. I just tune in to whatever you're doing, Gerald. I just look at the Pop Culture Cosmos, and then I do the follow up on the multiverse. So I get the Monday and the Friday fix because I want to be in the know about where to go and what's hot for Black Friday and Cyber Monday for that matter.
Indeed, and I will be trying to reach out to those sites just to get additional thoughts on, as those ads come up. It's just really just kind of fun for me to see what pops up as far as for Black Friday is concerned. And even though, like you said, when it comes to, you only have so much money to spread around, you can't buy everything that's out there. It's just cool to let everybody know what good things that are out there, because for a lot of people out there, they have to make very budget conscious decisions. And when prices drop on those console bundles, those television sets, and all those other consumer electronics, that's very attractive indeed. And also a lot of other great products as well.
And this should be a good year for us to compare and contrast since I'm north of the border this time. And Black Friday is a little bit of a different thing up here because, first of all, we don't have Thanksgiving in November. We have it on Columbus Day for all our American listeners, which is usually the second Monday in October. So we don't really have that Thursday off to do the big family thing. Black Friday just kind of hit. So we can compare and contrast and share some notes about what's going on and if there's anything on sale. From what I understand, it is getting bigger up here. Black Friday wasn't a thing on my radar when I left Canada. It apparently has grown since I've been living in the US, and now I'm back.
But one of the things that I did previously in the past few years was I ran Halloween stores here in the Las Vegas area. And over the course of time, I met with people that came from all over the world, Australia, England, what have you, and Japan, what have you. And it was interesting to hear them talk about Halloween becoming a little bit more prominent each and every year in their country. And it was interesting to hear that. And I'm hearing the same thing about Black Friday, that something that we have held dear for a while now seemingly wanting to branch out into other areas of the world and becoming more important to those areas as well. So it's very interesting to see how that develops. And I'm eager to see how Canada continues to embrace something that, well, I guess is one of our better known and better beloved, I don't say holidays, but
It's an
definitely one of
event.
our event. Probably the best way to say it. That's the
It's
best.
it's a calendar event for sure, and nobody does events quite like America.
This is all too true, my friend.
All right, the last piece of news on our weekly news roundup that I wanted to get to is Scorsese is possibly in as a producer on a standalone Joker film, with the possible option Warner Brothers is so desperately hoping to lure and court Mr. Leonardo DiCaprio to play the Joker himself in a standalone origin film. I don't even know where to start with the questions about all this. From, Scorsese wanting to come into the studio system, it's not a done deal yet, to using him as bait to get DiCaprio to play. Where is, Jared Leto in all this? And these are films that exist outside the DC extended universe, but are like altered variations of it. We heard about a different Batman film with Matt Reeves from, the Planet of the Apes saga and Let the Right One In fame that isn't attached to Batman versus Superman, but it is a Batman movie. So, like, again, we wonder what is going on with the DC universe. Thoughts, though, on Scorsese coming in, lending his chops as a wild spender, usually, spending like 80, 90 million on these drama pieces, let alone the 300 that it takes the average superhero film. And then, like, DiCaprio as the Joker? What are you thinking there?
Well, I think I don't know. That's it. Well, I know Josh and I talked at length about this in regards to the DC mess. I will say this: coming out of Comic-Con, there seemed to be like a little bright light as far as the direction and focus that DC had, as far as these are really starting to be a good lineup of future possible movies that are on the way. And then you hear week after week a new one here, a new one here, a new one here, a new one here. This one right here is going back. This one right here is off the beaten path. So it's very convoluted at this point. And I think half these pictures that they're now talking about are never going to see the light of day. If this standalone Joker, piece with Martin Scorsese possibly being a producer on it is, I don't know, iffy at best. I know that they talked about, at the same time, they talked about a Harley Quinn Joker romance film that's now been moved ahead of the Gotham City Sirens. So it's just all over the place. Black Adam and Shazam. Which one's coming first? I believe Shazam is now being filmed, but Black Adam's been pushed back because The Rock is only going to. It's I don't know. It's a whole mess that DC has now created. It's becoming very convoluted. And I think they need to stay on the DCEU personally, and having this side movie is not in their best interest, even if it stars Leonardo DiCaprio at this point in time. I just, because he's not as hot of a name as he once was, with all due respect to, as far as, sorry. But
he's kind of taken the Will Smith route. Like, did a bunch of big films that were like, yeah, he's really becoming a brand, and we're seeing one or two pictures every couple of years, starting to go away a little bit. Whether that's priorities, or whether because he's doing a lot of producing himself, or whether he's switching his life path, if you will. But he seems to have disappeared a little bit here and there.
Yeah, and exactly. And this, to me, with Martin Scorsese in as a producer, I don't know how much influence he would have as far as the actual end result is concerned, and having it away from the DCEU when the DCEU itself needs as much love and care as possible to stay on a good path, especially after the good vibes Wonder Woman has given it. It is just not the right move in my humble and low ranked and lowly assertion.
Couldn't agree more. That'll do it for another news roundup, where the theme is always, what shocking turn is DC going to unveil? Because it's another week and that happens. So thanks for listening to the news roundup, guys. We will be back with the Pop Culture Cosmos right after this.
And we're back with the Pop Culture Cosmos. Truly appreciate you being part of the broadcast. And thanks to my good friend, Rob for hosting that segment on the news. I'm hoping we can do that more often because it was really fun. You trying to just, I had no preparation what he was going to talk about, so it was really good that he was just hitting me up on the fly with these, and I appreciate his insight as well. Obviously, from his perspective, it's definitely it's some very insightful comments indeed, and I appreciate his time in doing so. But we're right now talking some great movies, and I want to hear your thoughts, Rob. Rob McCallum of Tiny Titan Studios, Rob McCallum Films, and a whole bunch of other projects coming out. Want to hear your thoughts on some of the movies that you're targeting this fall.
Well, let's go with the world premiere of Power of Grayskull, the definitive history of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, making its world premiere September 10th in Torrance, California at PowerCon.
And that's a shame because I'm from Torrance, and I will not be there to see it. I'm truly excited though for you guys, and I'm hoping it will be a success for the both of you.
Well, I actually won't be there either. I'm unable to travel with the rest of the crew. Money situations being what they are, having traveled back to Canada and starting a family and just kind of watching the pennies as we do. I won't be able to make that, and that's more of a shameless plug than anything. But there are a lot of good films that are coming out this holiday, including Kitty: Origins Evolutions, directed by Rob McCallum, world premiere October 27th in London, Ontario.
And people wonder where I got my shameless plugging from.
No, although that will be fun. That is not one of the films that's on my list. I don't think it would be fair. Although it is a pretty good film. I think I would say so myself. I have 3 on my list, looking at the fall release schedule, basically looking from September 1st all the way up to Christmas. I did not put Star Wars on my list because I think that's kind of a given for anybody that's listening to the show. If you're a pop culture fan, chances are you will have some interest in what's going on with Star Wars: The Last Jedi, given that it is finally the true triumphant return of Luke Skywalker and his story and his ongoing saga in the Star Wars universe. So I'm saying we should eliminate that from our list, Gerald. I don't know what's on yours, but I did pick 3 other films. What is the number 1 film on your list well, not even number 1, but what is the first film coming out that excites you this fall?
Well, the first one coming out might go under the radar, but I think it has some intriguing things as far as from a traditional action movie sense, but also as well the fact that with the success of Spider-Man: Homecoming and Birdman and what he's done, Michael Keaton's presence in this film might be something that might draw people in, and that's American Assassin, coming this month to theaters. I think that it's really gotten some good vibes. The trailers haven't just been the traditional action fare, so to speak. I think it might set up, as far as if it does well, it looks like it may set up its own parameters as far as future iterations down the line. So American Assassin to me looks like something that has some promise. I'm not saying it's going to be executed very well. We're not sure of that yet. It is in September, so the studio doesn't exactly have the full 100% weight behind it as a hit. But if it does strike a chord with audiences, it could do very well this fall season.
Well, I think you make some good points there. It wasn't one that was on my list, and I'm always wary of assassin-titled films because I feel like it's going for the jugular too quick. But who knows? It may just pin it on to my secondary list. The first film that I have might be on your list as well. It's Kingsman: The Golden Circle.
I knew you were going to say that one. That is an excellent film. That's an excellent choice indeed.
Yeah, I thought that the first one was a lot of fun. It really shook up the whole spy, secret society, service kind of thing, and especially for the British roots there with Matthew Vaughn being attached to it as well and playing up the whole James Bond thing. This is a fun kind of wink to the audience of what secret spy missions can be like, with still going over the top and still having a good time watching everything kind of unfold. Kingsman: Golden Circle is on my list.
What else you got there?
I have the Guillermo del Toro, much anticipated, The Shape of Water.
I don't know if that one was the most anticipated Guillermo del Toro movie that people wanted to come out with, but yes, that is a very highly anticipated.
Well, anytime del Toro makes a film, I think it's going to draw some eyes because of the visual presence that's going on there. I think it's a nice kind of interesting take on a romance story. It feels a little driven by the Beauty and the Beast kind of mechanic of what's going on there. two people from different worlds find a common connection and fall in love with one another. But what I like about it is the stylized look. It has a very Bioshock kind of feel, the steampunky period 1930s archaic by our standards technology. There's just so much atmosphere going on, and Del Toro is a master storyteller. Sign me up for this. Number 2 on your list.
Numero two would be numero dos, I should say. Numero dos for me is got to be Blade Runner 2049. And I know Blade Runner is not your cup of tea as far as being a film that has inspired.
It is not. I will go back and promise I will watch one of the versions that exist out there.
But I will say it has inspired many other filmmakers. How about that?
But how many of those filmmakers have 2 feature-length documentaries coming out this fall?
Not many. But you did mention one that it has impressed. Del Toro. Del Toro has mentioned that on numerous occasions as inspiration for his films. So going back on that, Blade Runner 2049, obviously the successor to the long running and long thought of in pop culture Blade Runner films. Definitely looking forward to seeing that dynamic between Ryan Gosling, Harrison Ford, Jared Leto, and that whole dynamic as far as where the idea of replicants in our society is going, and how the threat of replicants taking over is really become prominent at that point in time.
Well, I'm going to turn it right back at you and ask you for your number 3 anticipated film, outside Star Wars The Last Jedi, of course, coming in Q4 2017. Hit me!
Well, it's not Jumanji. I'm sorry.
It's not Jumanji Back in the Jungle?
No, it's not. It is Thor Ragnarok.
Why did you have to go with that?
Because for me, this has been the first time I've ever been excited to see a Thor film ever, because the previous Thor films, if you check out I'm going to give everybody a little hint there as far as I have a Gerald's Pop Culture Cosmos Guide to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and the Thor movies don't rank high on that list. I will just say that. This is the first time I think a Thor movie will be very well thought of within that context. I really like the buddy comedy dynamic that they've been trying to push between Thor and Hulk. And it just definitely looks like something that, if it's done correctly and done well, could be really, really a fun time and help set up the future Infinity War movie next year.
Well, I'll have to disagree with you on one point. I did not like the first Thor film, but I did like the second one. I was a big fan of that, but there's a lot I like about these Thor films because they line up so much with everything that I love about the He-Man universe. This mythical godlike character, fueled by lightning and power, has his band of heroes, basically trying to stop the evil version against what's going on. You can write all these different parallels. So when Thor: The Dark World came out, there was a lot going on there that I really, really, truly enjoyed. I like what's going on with this. What I don't like is we're probably going to avoid the whole Planet Hulk kind of storyline by the sounds of it, according to Mark Ruffalo. But we'll see where this one goes. It does come in at the shortest Marvel Cinematic Universe title that exists at 2 hours and 3 minutes. That's worthy of note, I guess, to some people.
But I think that may suit to his benefit. It's not going to be like The Dark Tower, where it was a paltry 90 minutes. This is going to be 2 hours, and it might tell the story in a very clean fashion and still keep everything going into Black Panther, into the Infinity War, and so on.
Unlike the running time of Blade Runner 2049 at 2 hours and 37 minutes.
Yeah, well,
you better use the bathroom first.
I'm hoping it will tell a great story. I'm just hoping it will continue that great.
Ridley Scott didn't mess up at all with the last Alien film or Prometheus. He's got his storytelling focused and lean.
Well, remember, he's only producing it. He's not directing it. It's Denis Villeneuve of The Arrival.
Well, we could only hope that means something went well this time.
And I did tell Josh that he did make the mistake of choosing the Alien film that was a bomb this summer instead of going for this film instead.
I haven't seen Alien Covenant. I know it is hitting iTunes and the digital stores out there, so I will get a chance to see it. I still haven't seen the second Guardians of the Galaxy film, again, on the to-do list. My third film. Now, might be a somewhat unconventional choice, I think, for some people to hear me say, maybe yourself included. But there's something about this that just adds up to one of those experiences that I think might not strike box office gold, but will be a film that sticks around and makes its money back, will do well internationally, will have a lot of home sales. And that is Murder on the Orient Express.
Good choice. Very good choice.
I think this film has got the chops, and I really like all the key components, starting with director Kenneth Branagh, who I'm a huge fan of, who also plays Hercule Poirot in this. But listen to this cast, okay? Johnny Depp, Michelle Pfeiffer, Daisy Ridley, Willem Dafoe, Penelope Cruz, Kenneth Branagh, as I mentioned, Josh Gad, Judi Dench. Like, it just goes like on and on. There's like the who's of character actors in here populating this classic murder mystery on a train. And from the, you know, creative director of Tiny Rails, you know, you can't find a better match at this point. It's just kismet, as you will. But Murder on the Orient Express, Agatha Christie novel, obviously very popular.
Plus, also you said Daisy Ridley and Johnny Depp, who are, you know, who are still considered top of the line stars at this point in time, especially Daisy, you know, with all of her Star Wars stuff going on and The Last Jedi going forward.
Absolutely, absolutely, just chock full of star power. And despite the amount of times that this source material has been covered in plays and other film and television adaptations, this feels like it's a good band of actors to put it together, and this feels like the right time to do it. And Kenneth Branagh is a remarkable director, and he did Thor 2, I believe. Did he not? Was he not the director of Thor 2?
Thor 1.
Really? I thought it was Thor 2. Okay, I'm gonna challenge.
But I will tell you, with Kenneth Branagh, was he considered for Obi-Wan at one point in time?
I don't know. Was he?
It seems like he would be a good fit for that, but maybe he would be a good fit if it was like an older version. Maybe in the Obi-Wan movie, you know, they segue from Ian McGregor to him to, you know.
You are right. By the way, it is Thor 1. I yield to the, and I'm looking now at his IMDb, and he's been announced to direct Artemis Fowl, which is a huge series of books.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember I wrote the article on the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I'm just telling you there. I kind of knew. But anyways, Kenneth Branagh.
You're ever wrong about anything.
No, I believe me, I've been way wrong a lot about a lot of things. Don't get me started. It would fill, you know, 100 podcasts. But anyways, Kenneth Branagh, as far as the director is concerned, he's had some pretty good movies himself. So I'm definitely looking forward to this as well. I thought that was an excellent choice. And you know, it takes me back to those old, I guess, 70s styles movies where you know, with Agatha Christie and all that, as far as those type of mysteries being solved. It's been a long time since there's been a really good mystery movie that's been portrayed on the big screen.
It is a classic whodunit, and I'm excited to see this come together right here. I think we got it made. I think we got it made here.
I think we do as well.
Well, that does it for my list on films to look out for. If you can only see 4, including Star Wars, I got Golden Circle, The Kingsman, Murder on the Orient Express, and The Shape of Water as well. And that would actually get you one film per month to trek to your local cinema. What are your picks again, to remind listeners?
Well, my picks are American Assassin, Blade Runner 2049, and Thor Ragnarok. And then, of course, obviously, like you said, The Last Jedi as well. But there's also some other great movies as well that are out there that definitely, if you get a chance to go and go for it. You know, whether you have that movie pass, which I know is causing a lot of controversy at $10 a month, or just going out to have a good time with the family. And I think what the movie industry has done is they really held back in the month of August, in late July and August after Dunkirk, with holding some really good films and saving it for the last quarter. For some reason, maybe they saw trending audiences going down in the latter part of the summer, so they just decided to go ahead and circle the calendars at some other point in time. So that's leaving the fourth quarter with a lot of great films, like you said, with Kingsman, with all these other great films that are coming up, and even some that we didn't mention that definitely look very promising indeed. So I'm hoping it'll be a much better fourth quarter than 2016, because 2016, that wasn't exactly the best exemplary fourth quarter worth of films. But this definitely looks like it's a little bit more promising indeed. Don't you agree?
You know what? I find the silver lining in every release schedule, quarter by quarter, month by month. I don't get to the cinemas as often as I like to anymore, but there's always something fun to appreciate. And I think it's important to support the local multiplex. So get out there, watch it on the big screen, let it be an event, and go do it with some friends. Have something to talk about. Adventure happens when you go out.
Exactly. When a good movie hits and it's, you know, a lot of people go see it, it generates that enthusiasm, not just in social media, but, you know, in your daily life. You know, hey, Rob, did you go see that film? You know, you get more of that type of water cooler conversation that really generates enthusiasm. It hopefully gets people back into seeing films once again.
I agree.
I agree as well. And that's, like I said, if you have any questions or thoughts on your choices for films this upcoming fall season, share us your thoughts. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, and Humanica Media on Facebook and Twitter. Rob, it's always a great pleasure having you on the show, and I'd like to make this like a really a more regular thing. But that's, like I said, with your schedule coming up, you've always got a place here at the Pop Culture Cosmos.
Well, good to know. And if I get back to Las Vegas, maybe we can find a way to do that in person. Do a little bit of a news roundup, PCC in person.
Sounds good, but we can always do the news roundup like we are already, because
I was trying to tease people with the possible return, even if it was like just for one night only.
Oh, there you go. That would be awesome indeed. We'll make sure that everybody gets a heads up on that if that happens, and I certainly hope it does, my friend, because it's always good to hear. It's always good for you to talk that smack on me, right? When we're close up, as far as it's concerned, it seems to flow much better.
Well, I will be looking for a couch when I do come back to Vegas. So who knows?
Who knows, indeed.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for having me, and until next time, my friend.
Until next time, this is the Pop Culture Cosmos.
Didn't do it.
Or
no, I thought we got out. I thought we got out clean. We did not.
No, we did not.